What is going on inside the Indiana Fever has unfolded into something far stranger and far more explosive than anyone imagined. It began with confusion, turned into disbelief, and has now spiraled into a full-blown crisis that has fans, media, and even players scrambling to make sense of a franchise that looks increasingly unprepared for the weight of the moment they were handed. When Kelly Kroskoff quietly deleted her Twitter account, people assumed it was an overreaction to a bad interview, but the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes that this was not just a PR misstep. This was a symptom of deeper fractures inside a front office that was not ready for Caitlin Clark, not ready for the pressure she brings, and definitely not ready for the scrutiny that comes with being the most watched franchise in women's basketball. The comment comparing the Fever to Apple and, by extension, reducing Clark to something as trivial as a phone case was not just tone-deaf. It was a signal that leadership still didn't understand why their franchise suddenly mattered. Clark is not a marketing accessory. She is the engine powering the entire machine. Every sold-out arena, every national broadcast, every social media explosion, every spike in merchandise sales revolves around her. Fans know this. Players know this. The league knows this. The only group that didn't seem to grasp it was the very front office responsible for protecting that momentum. And when Kroskoff's comments spread across the internet like wildfire, fans responded with the kind of fury you typically see reserved for scandals, not metaphors. Her disappearance from social media felt like an admission that she had lost control of the narrative and, in many ways, the trust of the fan base. What makes this moment even more surreal is the contrast between the front office chaos and the escalating fight happening on the court. Caitlin Clark has been targeted relentlessly, hit repeatedly, shoved, elbowed, and tossed to the floor with barely a whistle to her name. The referee's silence has become a story of its own. Every game, the physicality grows more blatant. Every game, Clark's resilience becomes more evident. And every game, fans grow more outraged that the league refuses to protect its biggest star. What would be a national scandal in the NBA is treated as routine in the WNBA. If LeBron or Steph were thrown to the ground the way Clark has been, it would dominate headlines for days. But here, it is shrugged off, justified, minimized. That double standard has not gone unnoticed, especially by players willing to speak the truth without fear. Sophie Cunningham has emerged as Clark's most vocal defender, and her voice has become a megaphone for frustrations that have been simmering beneath the surface. Her podcast rant, fiery enough to feel scripted by a Netflix showrunner, was not just a defense of Clark. It was a direct challenge to the league, the officials, and even her own organization. Sophie didn't hesitate. She called out the referees, called out the culture of targeting rookies, called out the double standard that punishes star players for existing while allowing opponents to treat dominance as an invitation to cheap shots. Her message was unmistakable. The league has failed to protect its most important player, and the consequences are spilling into the public eye. But Sophie went a step further, crossing a line that few players ever dare approach. She directed her criticism inward at the Indiana Fever themselves. According to insiders, her podcast wasn't a spontaneous rant. It was planned. It was intentional. It was a response to Kroskoff's comments and the growing realization that parts of the organization were actively downplaying Clark's significance rather than embracing it. This wasn't irritation. This was a rebellion. And it exposed something important. The Fever are not united. They are not aligned. They are not operating as a franchise ready to become a dynasty. They are split between those who recognize Clark as the future and those who fear losing power, relevance, or control. The tension is not imagined. It is real, brewing behind the scenes, visible in awkward interviews, silent reactions, and the strange emotional distance coming from the very people who should be supporting Clark the most. The old guard is uneasy. Clark represents not only change but acceleration. She is not just a promising rookie. She is a phenomenon, a global draw, a once-in-a-generation player whose presence reshapes everything around her. That kind of influence doesn't blend seamlessly with existing hierarchies. It disrupts them, exposes them, forces them to adapt or crumble. The Fever struggle is not about marketing strategies or misinterpreted metaphors. It is about identity. Do they embrace the future that is already here, or do they cling tightly to a past that no longer exists? Meanwhile, Clark continues doing exactly what she has done her entire career. She shows up. She plays through contact. She leads. She elevates her teammates. She transforms games. And even while being fouled, hit, grabbed, and shoved, she maintains a level of composure that only strengthens the belief that she is built for moments far bigger than the conflict swirling around her. Every act of aggression against her only reinforces her impact. Every ignored whistle only spotlights her resilience. Every cheap shot only deepens fan loyalty and intensifies the national conversation. Ironically, the attempts to undermine her only make her more central, more powerful, more essential to the sport. The Fever's internal crisis reflects a broader reckoning across the WNBA. As attention skyrockets, as viewership surges, as the spotlight intensifies, the cracks that were once hidden are now glaring. Leadership that operated comfortably in smaller markets now faces the expectations of a global audience. Veterans who thrived under the old system now find themselves competing for relevance in Clark's shadow. Officials who once flew under the radar are suddenly under nationwide scrutiny. The pressure cooker is real and not everyone is built for it. But this story is far from over. The next chapter could erupt at any moment. A viral clip, an officiating disaster, a front office shakeup, a player interview that exposes even more tension. The pace of developments is accelerating, and the stakes grow with every game Clark plays. The future of the Fever, the image of the WNBA, and the expectations of millions of viewers are all colliding in a moment that feels